highly charged place. And Achebe does that. He doesn't put you at a distance and you get to observe it like the Europeans do, because he brings in that white European who's like, I'll write a book, and it's like, no, it'll just be a paragraph about these crazy Africans, right? So he's there, he's the distant person. You're right there with Okonkwo, and I think the show is doing something similar, right? You're there in the moment. And it's a difficult place to be, right? Being in that moment. And I think it's also a necessary place to be, especially for Tulsa and for other kinds of violence that Black people have experienced individually and collectively. I think if you think about it, there are all of these moments when Lovecraft Country puts us in the space. We're in that basement with Letty and Teak, right? With the ghosts. Yeah. We're in the water with them. The show just really puts us in the place, and I think is forcing us to reckon with that history. And so often when we think about historical violence against Black people, we think of it as something that white people have to reckon with because their ancestors did, right? But there's a reckoning for Black people as well, right? And that reckoning might be part of the healing for Black people. So that moment when the deformed and violated ghosts, right, gain form, and when they gain form, they become whole in order to move on, to kick the abuser, the out of the crazy scientist, evil scientist, and to move on, right? To help us in the present, like they helped Letty and Teak, and then to move on. So I think that there are, lessons from that in terms of the need to confront this historical violence is not just a sort of reckoning for white people. Black people also need to sort of reckon with that in order to be whole. I think that that's part of what the show is suggesting, right? And raising the question of how do we reckon with that historical violence, right? What do we do with it? And I think the other part is to think about how community and being in community becomes really important in order to reckon with that violence.
Have you seen The Atlantics? The reason why I'm asking is because, again, it's an African reckoning with magic and all, and the coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you're leading me to think, and I'm wondering if this is
like Sankofa, like the Sankofa principle.
Right, when you're talking about a genre,
right?
America. I mean, who is creating this? Is it an African director and filmmaker, or are they borrowing African tradition in this film?
Well, I mean, so the author of the book, Matt Ruff, is not African American. He's white. The showrunner is a Black woman. I believe she's African American woman. And so I think it's African, but it's the African retention, right? So it's not. Yes, it's the African retentions, right? And how those are taken up in order to do that work as well. So like the evocation or the claiming of the Sankofa principle as part of the African American sort of claim to Africa, and also how you claim Africa, right? This idea of a return, right? So with the Sankofa principle, it's essentially going back to claim what you left behind in order to bring that into the present to do a particular kind of work, right? Like you're not complete until you return um, for what you lost. Why are you laughing?
You know why, but that's another whole conversation. I won't. Paragraph about returns and reclamation.
Right, yeah. Okay, I got you. Returns of reclamation. Yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's the first show in a very long time that I think manages to entertain, to provoke, to have us think, and also does a kind of work, but also demands work from us. Because how do you talk to people about Lovecraft Country, right? There's like work that's required. So I've watched the series 3 times now. I've listened to for a 4th time. I've listened to the podcast. I've watched videos. I've read some articles, and there might even be a syllabus or 2 out there. So it's generated. I mean, we're also in the era where things generate things, right? And then depending on who you are and your aims, things can sometimes get monetized and marketed and all of that, which is, part of the capitalist sort of, cultural ethos, right? So I think it's a show. It's not the first show around which people have kind of